You're doing something before every run that you think is helping you. You've probably been doing it for years. Your coach told you to do it. Every fitness article you've ever read says to do it. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It's actually making your runs worse. Not a little worse. Measurably, scientifically, demonstrably worse. Your pace is slower because of it. Your injury risk might actually be higher because of it. And the wild part is, almost every runner on earth is still doing it. Because the myth is just that deeply baked into fitness culture. I'm not going to make you wait long to find out what it is, but I do want to make sure you understand the full picture, because knowing what to stop doing is only half of it. The other half is knowing what to do instead, and that's where the real performance unlock lives. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, your entire pre-run routine is going to look different. And if you're the kind of person who actually wants to understand the why behind training decisions, rather than just following rules you don't understand, this channel is going to be your new favorite place on the internet. Hit subscribe if that sounds like you. What I'm covering today is one of those topics where the science and the common wisdom are completely at odds with each other, and the science has been winning this argument for over a decade. But somehow the message hasn't fully reached the average runner. What you're about to learn is something that physical therapists, sports scientists, and elite coaches have known for years, and it changes not just how you warm up, but how your whole body functions the moment your run actually begins. This matters whether you're a brand new runner trying to build your first consistent routine or someone who's been running for 20 years and has a drawer full of race medals. The principle applies equally, and the results of getting it right show up immediately, not in weeks, not after months of adaptation, but on your very next run. That's the kind of practical that I love. Before we get into it, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or your country in the comments. Seriously, this community spans so many time zones and backgrounds, and I love seeing it. All right, let's go. The thing you need to stop doing before your runs is static stretching. Long holds, touching your toes and staying there for 30 seconds, pulling your quad to your butt and holding it. Sitting in a hamstring stretch before you head out the door. All of it. The research on this is not subtle and it is not new. Study after study going back well over a decade has shown that performing static stretching, the kind where you hold a position for 20 to 60 seconds, immediately before running measurably reduces your power output, slows your pace, and can actually decrease your muscles' ability to absorb impact. You are literally making yourself a slower, less capable runner for the first portion of every run you've ever preceded with a static stretch routine. Here's what's happening mechanically. When you hold a stretch, you're essentially signaling your nervous system to relax the muscle and reduce its tension. That sounds good in theory. Loose muscles, right? But running requires your muscles to be reactive. They need tension. They need to be primed and ready to fire quickly, to store and release energy with each foot strike, to stabilize your joints under load. A muscle that's been told by your nervous system to relax is temporarily less capable of doing all of those things. The technical term for this is reduced neuromuscular readiness. But you don't need the terminology. You just need to understand that a pre-run static stretch routine is essentially putting your muscles in a slightly sedated state right before asking them to perform. The research numbers are actually kind of stunning when you see them. Studies have found that static stretching before exercise can reduce muscle strength by up to 8% and muscle power by up to 10% in the period immediately following the stretch. For a runner, that means your first mile, potentially longer, is happening with a measurably compromised engine. You might be going slower, burning more energy at the same pace, and experiencing less stability in your joints than you would have if you'd done nothing at all. Think about how many runs you've had where the first mile or two just felt heavy and sluggish and off. There's a decent chance your pre-run stretch routine was a contributing factor. Now here's where I want to be precise, because I know someone is already typing in the comments that their physical therapist told them to stretch before running, and I don't want to create confusion. The issue is specifically with static stretching immediately before running. Stretching in general, as a recovery tool, as a flexibility practice done at other times of day, as part of managing specific muscle tightness, all of that has real value. The problem is the timing and the type. Holding long passive stretches right before you run is the specific behavior that the evidence consistently flags as counterproductive. Stretching after your run, later in the day, as its own dedicated session, totally different story. And I also want to acknowledge that for many runners, the pre-run static stretch is a ritual. It feels right. It feels like you're taking care of your body, being responsible, doing the thing. Giving it up can feel almost careless at first, like you're skipping something important. That feeling is real, and it's worth naming, because the ritual of preparation matters psychologically too. The good news is that what I'm about to share gives you something far more effective to replace it with, and it actually feels better once you experience what a properly primed body feels like heading into a run. What's your current pre-run routine? Do you stretch? Do you skip warm-up entirely? I'm genuinely curious about what people are actually doing out there. Drop it in the comments because I think the range of answers is going to be fascinating. Alright, so now you know what to stop. But here's the part of this conversation that most articles and videos skip over, and it's honestly the most valuable part of what we're covering today. Because the goal isn't just to remove something, it's to replace it with something dramatically better. What actually works before a run is dynamic movement, and the difference in how your body feels and performs when you do this correctly versus when you do a static stretch routine, or nothing at all, is immediate and unmistakable. Dynamic warm-up isn't just a better version of the same idea. It's physiologically doing the opposite of what static stretching does, and that opposite is exactly what your body needs. When you move dynamically, going through motion rather than holding position, you're raising your body temperature, increasing blood flow to the muscles you're about to use, lubricating your joints, and activating your nervous system in a way that primes it for the demands of running. Instead of telling your muscles to relax, you're waking them up. Instead of reducing neuromuscular readiness, you're building it. The muscles that are going to be propelling you forward, stabilizing your ankles, firing your glutes, and absorbing impact through your knees. All of them are being actively engaged and prepared for the specific movement pattern of running before you ever take your first real stride. The practical version of this is simple and takes about 8 to 10 minutes. You start with a few minutes of easy walking to get circulation moving. Nothing fancy, just walking at a brisk pace. Then you move into leg swings, front to back and side to side, which take your hip joint through its full range of motion dynamically without holding any position. Then some walking lunges, which activate your glutes and hip flexors in a running-specific movement pattern. High knees, which prime your hip flexors and gets your legs moving in the exact mechanical pattern of running. Butt kicks, which activate your hamstrings and reinforce a quick turnover cadence. And finally, a minute or two of very easy jogging, genuinely easy, before you settle into whatever pace your workout calls for. That's the whole routine. It's not complicated. It doesn't require a gym or any equipment. It takes less time than a full static stretch sequence, and it produces a body that is genuinely more prepared to run than anything you've likely been doing. The first time you do a proper dynamic warm-up and then head out for your run, you'll feel the difference almost immediately. Your first mile won't feel like wading through mud. Your legs will feel awake. Your stride will feel more natural and responsive from the start. That's not placebo, that's physiology. There's a runner I know. She'd been running for about 6 years, dealing with chronic shin tightness and what she described as dead legs for the first 2 miles of every run every single time. She'd been doing a 10-minute static stretch routine before every run, faithfully, because she figured the tightness meant she needed to stretch more. She switched completely to a dynamic warm-up, dropped the static stretching pre-run entirely, and within 2 weeks, the dead leg feeling in the first 2 miles was almost completely gone. The wow, shin tightness improved significantly too, not because of anything she changed in the running itself, but because her muscles were arriving at the start of each run in a better state to do their job. That story isn't unusual, it's actually very common, and it points to something worth thinking about. A lot of the niggles that runners chalk up to just being part of running, the sluggish first mile, the stiff early kilometers, the joints that take forever to warm up, are at least partially caused by inadequate or counterproductive warm-up preparation. The body isn't malfunctioning, it just isn't being set up properly before being asked to perform. Have you ever noticed that your best runs often seem to happen when you've been moving around already? When you ran after a day of being active, or when you did some other activity before heading out? That's not coincidence. Your body was already warm, already awake, already primed. A proper dynamic warm-up replicates that state artificially, so you get the same performance benefit on every single run, not just the ones where life happened to warm you up first. Now I want to add one more layer to this, because there's a third element of pre-run preparation that almost nobody talks about, and it connects everything we've covered in a way that I think will really stick with you. It's the mental warm-up. And before you write that off as soft or fluffy, hear me out, because there's real neuroscience behind this, and it has a direct, measurable impact on how your run goes. Here's what I mean. Most runners start their runs in a completely reactive mental state. The alarm goes off, they're out the door, they start running while their brain is still processing emails, still half thinking about the day ahead, still running background programs that have nothing to do with the physical act of running. And what this creates is a disconnection between the mind and the body during the very moments when that connection matters most: the warm-up, the early miles, the moment when you're establishing pace and rhythm and finding your groove. Elite runners and serious athletes in almost every sport use what's called mental priming or activation before they perform. It's not meditation, though that can be part of it. It's basically a brief, intentional moment of focus where you remind your brain what you're about to do, why you're doing it, and what you want to feel like while doing it. It sounds almost too simple to matter. But the research on attentional focus during athletic performance is surprisingly robust. Athletes who run with internal attentional focus, meaning they're actually tuned into how their body feels, their breathing, their stride, rather than completely checked out or distracted, perform measurably better than those who don't. The practical version of this is something you can add to the end of your dynamic warm-up in about 60 seconds. Before you start your run, you take a moment. And I mean literally just a moment, not 5 minutes of journaling, to set an intention for the run. It might be something as simple as, today, I'm going to focus on keeping my shoulders relaxed. Or, I want to pay attention to my breathing in the first mile and not let it get ahead of me. Or just, today is an easy run and I'm going to protect that no matter what my ego says. One specific, clear, physical intention that gives your brain something to do during the run that actually connects to the running itself. This matters more than most people realize because running without mental engagement is what leads to the drift, the slow unconscious creep toward gray zone effort that I've talked about before, the loss of form as the miles pile up, the missed signals from your body that would tell you something's off if you were actually paying attention. The mental warm-up isn't about motivation or positivity. It's about showing up to your run as a present, engaged athlete rather than someone whose body is running while their mind is somewhere else entirely. I'll be honest, this was the last piece of warm-up protocol that I personally resisted because it felt like overthinking something that should be simple. Running is running. Just go run. But the difference between runs where I go through a quick intentional mental check-in versus runs where I just blast off the moment my watch buzzes is real and consistent. The runs with intention feel more controlled, more purposeful, and honestly more enjoyable, because I'm actually in them instead of just present in body while absent in mind. Think about your last 10 runs. How many of them did you start with any kind of mental intention or focus? And how many of them did you start on autopilot, mind still somewhere else, body running while brain caught up? If you're like most runners, the answer is mostly autopilot. And that's not a character flaw, it's just an opportunity. Let me put all of this together because I want to. Make sure the full picture is clear before we wrap up. What you stop doing is static stretching before you run. Long holds, passive positions, anything that tells your muscles to relax and reduces their readiness to perform. Not forever, not everywhere, just not immediately before your runs. What you replace it with is a dynamic warm-up. 8 to 10 minutes of progressive movement that raises your temperature, wakes up your nervous system, lubricates your joints, and primes the exact muscles you're about to use. Walking, leg swings, lunges, high knees, butt kicks, easy jog. Done. And what you add on top of that, the layer most people never consider, is a brief moment of mental engagement before you start your actual run. One intention, one clear focus, 10 to 60 seconds of actually deciding what kind of run this is going to be and what you're going to pay attention to while you're doing it. The total time investment is about the same as what most runners are already spending on a pre-run static stretch. The outcome is a body that's actually prepared to run, a first mile that feels awake instead of sluggish, and a run that you're mentally present for from start to finish. And if you do this consistently, if this becomes your standard pre-run protocol, you'll notice it not just in how runs feel, but in your training data. Your pacing will be more consistent, your early mile splits will improve. The runs where everything just clicks will start happening more often because you've stopped leaving your first mile to chance. Here's the thing I want to leave you with. The difference between runners who keep improving year over year and runners who plateau and wonder why isn't usually the big stuff. It's rarely about needing a completely different training program or running twice as many miles. More often than not, it's the accumulation of small, precise adjustments to things that were quietly working against them. The pre-run static stretch is one of those things. It's small. It takes maybe 10 minutes to replace with something better. And the payoff from that 10-minute change shows up on every single run for the rest of your running life. If that kind of specific science-informed detail is what you're looking for in your running content, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. Every week we dig into the things that actually move the needle. Not generic advice, not recycled tips, but the real mechanisms behind how running performance works and how to improve it systematically. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of what's next, I have a video that goes deep on the full warm-up and cool-down framework, including what to do after your run to speed up recovery and reduce soreness. It connects directly to what we covered today and takes the whole conversation further. It's on your screen right now, and I think you'll find it just as useful. Before you go, what did your pre-run routine look like before watching this? Static stretching? No warm-up at all? Something else? Tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious, and I promise I read every single one. See you in the next one.